Yes, the power was off.
Okay.
Can y'all hear me okay? Yes. Okay. I want to thank you all for coming here. I know that you may have been working all day and you have kids at home or in the child care, and I know when I get home I don't like getting back out sometimes, so I appreciate all of you being here. Usually there is another presenter with me when we do these presentations. Her name is Sarah Tomlinson, and she is a speech pathologist at Toller Elementary, and then she also does our early childhood testing. And we both do testing in the summertime, and I see several faces from schools I've worked at and also from the summertime. So anyway, I'll get started on core vocabulary. Core vocabulary is kind of a catchphrase, but I'll tell you how we have specialized it specifically for Garland ISD. First of all, I want to just give you some background that some of it is obvious and some of it may be new information, but when we're looking at ways to communicate, there's really only two ways to communicate. You either talk or you use some form of augmentative communication. Oops, sorry. With augmentative communication, that's pretty much anything that is not talking, and so it could include unaided, which we used to call low-tech things, which include facial expressions, your body language, gestures, sign language. A lot of this is socially related, things that we pick up, or things that typically developing kids may pick up naturally. We don't always directly teach these kinds of things, but sometimes we do need to directly teach these. Unaided is when you're only using yourself or your hands or something like that. Then there is aided, and there are two kinds of aided communication, and there is basic, this is the one we used to call low-tech. It can include something as simple as writing, like on a pen and paper or a dry erase board, pointing to pictures or words on a board, and then you have high-tech, and that's the devices that have some kind of voice output system, like an iPad with different apps and things like that. So there's really a wide range of communication. Another thing that speech paths look at are reasons for communicating. Why is this child saying what he's saying or acting the way he's acting? What is he trying to communicate to me? One of those, we use communication to request or demand something, like he wants a cookie, for example. Some of you may be familiar with ABA or verbal behavior, and they use the word "man," which means the same thing. Then we also use communication to label, just like that's a window, that's a door. We're just labeling or commenting on things. Then we answer questions. That includes intraverbal. And with intraverbal, there has to be another person communicating with you, or there has to be someone that has initiated something and the person is responding to that. Then there is repeating or echoing. We also communicate to inform others, provide information to other people, and we also greet. Okay, so like she said, this is my 21st year. I spent my first 15 years at Davis Elementary, and I had PPCD. I've had PPCD all 21 years, thankfully. I've had some other programs too, but PPCD is, the little ones are where my heart is. Before that, I worked just a couple of years in ECI, the 0 to 3-year-olds, out in East Texas. But before core, we tried everything we could to help a child with their communication. And I would try to get with the teacher. They would give me a list of vocabulary or the subject they were going to be really stressing that next week. I would get pictures. When I first started, we had black and white pages in a notebook about 4 notebooks about this thick, that I would run to the copier, cut out the one I needed, or find a color copier and print the one I needed, cut it out, get laminated, cut that out, get Velcro, get it back to the teacher, and by the time I got it back to her, it was usually too late. They had either moved on or they were at the tail end of it, and it didn't work for the child, obviously, but really it didn't work for me and it didn't work for the teacher. And it's really, honestly, the kid is first, but it has to work for all of us. Another thing I wanted to add real fast is that when we were doing that, I felt like I would get all giddy because I would have pictures of everything that I could possibly think of for a certain situation. Well, then what we figured out is, well, yeah, we have all these words, but the child's not using any of them to communicate in any way. So it's like, well, what good is that? Like, there's a breakdown there. Bye. Probably about 15 years ago, the district developed toolkits for the speech paths because we know that, we're all trained, we all have the same degrees basically, but, and our kids are very transient. So we want to have activities that the speech paths could go to if they needed some ideas for therapy. We have a toolkit for semantics, like vocabulary. We have a toolkit for syntax. We have a thematic toolkit. We have all these toolkits that different groups put together for us. It's kind of a go-to when we need certain topics that we're working on. But the one area we all struggled in was with assistive technology, including just pictures to help kids communicate. So we went, probably about 10 of us went to a conference with a lady named Gail Van Tatenhoe. And I had never heard of her, but she is now, like, I call her my speech hero. Like, and I say when I grow up, I want to be just like her. She travels the world, and she works with people of all ages. But she also has a lot of adults that have gone through school systems around the world and get out of high school and don't have a way to communicate. And I guarantee it's not because no one has worked with them or tried, but there hasn't been a functional system that has been able to work for the child to go with them as he grows and to build on that. So when we heard her talking, that was the first time we ever heard about core vocabulary. And I know Sarah Tomlinson and I looked at each other like we had that aha moment. Here's our next toolkit. Because we need to all be on the same page. We need something that's going to be functional. We need something that's available and that's going to work. Obviously technology has grown by leaps and bounds, but when we first started this, the district actually allowed us to meet with Gail over a year's time, and we would Skype with her. We met with her in person over a 2-day period, and then she came back the following year when we had the toolkits made, and she presented it to the speech pathologists that were here. We felt like these, like I said, could be used throughout the district because not only for the speech paths, but our kids go school to school for different reasons. And so a child shouldn't learn my vocabulary and then go to another school and learn someone else's vocabulary. Like, it should be fairly consistent across the district. So truthfully, Gail helped us learn that we have to look at language from a different perspective. We have to look at the function, not just a bunch of words, not building vocabulary so great until we have a foundation to build that vocabulary on. So, core, obviously the core of an apple, we're really kind of getting to the heart of it all. We think of, or we like to look at the apple as like total communication. It involves like your verbal and nonverbal language. It includes social skills. It includes those higher level thinking, understanding figurative language, understanding just higher levels of communication that we don't get until we're older, middle school, high school, adults. But for our kids who don't have a way to communicate, regardless of what age they are, we've got to get to the core. We've got to give them something to build on, and then we can build that vocabulary around it. So, why is core the best part? First of all, it's functional. Second of all, it's something that we can use for multi-purposes. Used to, before Gail, I would have pictures like door, window, clock, all these nouns. And if a child said door, honestly, I wouldn't know if he wanted to open it or close it or leave, or I had no idea. If we use the word open, then we can open the door, or we can open the window, or we can open your backpack, or we can open your lunchbox, we can open your drink, we can open your coat. Yes, we don't usually use the word open for coat, but that is a functional word, and that's one word that the kid can use in various situations that he can use, and they need repetition, we know. So he's getting the repetition, it's functional, and he's going to get a reaction for using the word. This is one of our core boards. And I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but this is not the only way to use core vocabulary, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But these are the core vocabulary words that we, as a committee, decided on that we wanted to use in Garland. We color-coded them based on parts of speech. So we have the yellow ones are pronouns, the green ones are verbs, the purple ones are positional words, the orange ones are demonstratives, the blue ones are adjectives, and then we also color-coded, well, the red, we only have one red that's a negative. But a child needs, we tell the child no, but they need to be able to tell us no. Do you want a cookie? No. Or do you want the bag of chips? No. Or do you want this toy? Well, instead of pushing it away or not wanting to do their work or whatever it is, we need to give them the word no. And sometimes we don't want to give that particular word, but it is functional and it is useful. We also color-coded the question words, the WH, like who, where, when, why, what. I was missing what. All of those have a pink border because they're question words, but the inside color goes with the word that the answer will go with. So like if I said, what do you want to do? You could tell me a green word. Or when are we going to eat? You go to a blue word, for example. So we were trying to make that connection. We also divided the board into quadrants. We have obviously A, B, C, and D. And then we numbered the rows. And the reason for that is for our kids who need, who maybe aren't physically able to point to the pictures, but they can use eye gaze. So we can say, okay, is it in A? And this is assuming the child is able to respond yes or no in some way. A, no. B, no. C. And then we get a yes. So then we say, okay, is it 4, 5, 6? And then we go across with the words, and then they can finally get to thirsty. That's not the most efficient way, but for a child who cannot point to the pictures or activate a switch on his or her own, that is a way that they could get their needs met and be in control of their communication. We also have a back page. Like I mentioned earlier, we had so many nouns that we were using because we're building vocabulary, right? And we didn't really honestly realize how many nouns we were using and how little, if any, verbs we were giving a child. So if I'm correct, you may find one. But most of these are not nouns. These are descriptive words that can be used in various situations. But we know we all work in schools. Our kids are, we're in the school setting. The teachers are going to want their words. So on the back of every core board, we put what we call teacher words, but they're like colors, numbers, shapes, body parts, and materials for school, like paper, markers, glue. Because we knew the teachers would want that, but this is where we would want to spend the most of our time. Another thing we did, this shows you the whole set of core vocabulary. You have a page in your handout that lists all of the words. Can I borrow yours? I should have. Yeah. Thank you. It looks like this, and it tells you the first set. It's all divided. We have 5 different levels of core. And it also tells you which quadrant it's in. And then it lists the words that are on the back page as well. Thank you. I would not hand this board, if I could hand this board like this to a child to learn how to communicate, that kid doesn't need core board. They need some other high level device, something. But I wanted to show you what the whole set looks like. We do have the boards divided, like you'll see on that page I showed you. The first set is 8, and then the next set is 15. I didn't bring the 8 level, but I have the set of 15. And we're talking about 15 words on the inside. We're not counting the back. So when we use these words stay in the same place. They don't go anywhere else if you're using the board like this. And then the next set is 30 words. So these words stay on here in the same place they were at. And then we add new vocabulary. Well, what happens is when a child is able to point to a picture, you build automaticity when they've had the repetition over and over and over. And this is introduced in speech therapy. The teacher's got to be using it. The parents have got to be using it. Everybody's got to be on board with it. But the pictures stay the same. So maybe that the kid isn't really looking at the word or the picture, but he just knows that this spot is where I need to go. So then you automatically, kind of like when we used to have to dial telephones, you really didn't look at the number, you just did it real fast because your brain had developed the pattern. So that's what we build on. So then we go from 15 to 30, and then from 30 to 55. And y'all can look at these afterwards. You're more than welcome to come look at any of this we have. And then we have the whole board. I'll be honest, most of my kids, of course I get them when they're little, but most of my kids are using 8 boards or the 15. The 30 I like. There haven't been very many kids that I've gotten quite to 55 yet. But I think part of that is age, and part of it is, how often we've been able to use it. And there are other factors, too, that are going to vary from child to child. One last thing is that these go from left to right. So if I point to want, that, it's like pre-reading skills. And you'll see that on the sequencing activity we'll do in just a little bit. Like we go across and we go down and across. We know that core is just the beginning. So when we tell you these 4 words that are in your packet, that this is where you should start, this isn't where you stop. But we need a foundation, and your child needs a foundation, if at all possible. And we know there are other factors that are going to come into play. There are neurological reasons. There may be cognitive issues. There may be physical things going on. It's going to vary child to child, and there is no way that anyone can tell you the time span it's going to take for your child. I wish I had that power, but it's just going to vary. And like a lot of you know, it's probably going to vary day to day as well. When we are building these words, though, in your packet you have the words want, more, that, and finished. So what we're going to do, like if a child's at only, we may be starting at a single word level. So we're like jumping for joy when they touch want, and then we give them something automatically. Don't offer the picture want for something you don't want your child to have. Because if that child points to want, you better give it. Because if you don't give it, that word has lost its power. Does that make sense? So don't put want out if it's not time to eat. You'll have to do whatever works for your family, but point is, don't offer the words unless it's okay for the child to have something. You still have a little control there. With want, after I get a child using want, and we don't just stay there until they're using it, but I'll do a lot of like want or want that, because they may want bubbles or they may want a picture in a book, or they may want blocks. But if they can tell me, want that, we've gotten a 2-word utterance or a 2-word combination, however, whether they're signing or pointing to pictures. And we always match the word. Whether we're signing it, whatever it is, you always say it verbally, because that's our ultimate goal when we can get there. So from want that, then we work on like I want, or I want that. And then we can like I want more, or I want more that. You've got to also get out of your, and this, when we went to Gail's training for the 2 days, it took us forever because, especially I guess the speech class, we wanted the grammar. Like that is not a grammatically correct sentence for me to say, I want more of that. But it's functional for the child. And that's what we've got to focus on. That's that whole language from a different perspective. You've got to be okay with that. You're going to build from that, but we got to get there first. With these also, there are various different various settings. You can use them at home, and I'll show you some pictures in just a minute. But the word I would use after this would be no. But I thought, let's start here, and I'll give you some ways to use this. But you're really going to have to talk with your speech pathologist and what she or he recommends for your child, because obviously the kids are going to be at different levels, and sometimes we're working more on behavior to be able to get them to attend to pictures first. Sometimes we need to use objects. I mean, it varies child to child, so that's why you really need to communicate with your speech pathologist and see what she's thinking, or see, you can mention things you would like to try, but really work as a team, because there's only one of your child. Like everyone in his village that's working with your child, we don't need different vocabulary. We don't need different ways to communicate. There's one person. And that child needs all of us on his page. Okay, so core vocabulary at home. I thought you could put these 4 words. You can make colored copies of them or scan them, however, whatever you want to do with them. But or ask your speech pathologist for more copies. But you can put them on your refrigerator. If you look at, there's a page in your packet that you have it out. Thank you. Can I use this? It's suggestions for want. And this one word can be used for a snack. It could be used for the bathroom. It could be used for a book, even just turning the page of a book. It could be used for, I forgot what else on this, bath time. Brushing your teeth. Want toothbrush? They need to touch want, and you give them the toothbrush. Now, if your child doesn't like brushing your teeth, he's not going to want to request it, so don't use it for that. Because he would tell you no, no, no all the time if he had the no question to point, or no word to point to. But if your child likes brushing their teeth, or likes taking a bath, or likes having bubbles, let that child touch want. We can get you a million more pictures. If it gets messed up, so what? Like, that's one great thing about this, is that it's easy to access, and it's cost effective. It's not crazy expensive. It's not like an iPad you're going to drop in the water. But let them request what toy they want in the tub. Want duck. Want that. And you can offer 2 choices. If your child's not at a point where they really will make a choice yet, then just show the toy you know they want, but request that they touch want, and the second they do, you give them that toy. Do you have any questions about that so far? Okay. And that's the thing. You've got to be on it, because the second they touch it, you have to reward them. And it's like a lot of y'all are familiar with ABA, I'm guessing. Communication is a behavior. I say something, or I point to something, or whatever, and I'm supposed to get something in return. And if you don't give it to me in return, then what's the point of what I just did? You can also use it in the bedroom or playroom. You can have it on the toy box if they want open. If they want, I know a friend who likes to go into the closet after school to decompress. Well, I would suggest that mom could somehow get that door shut where the child couldn't open it, and she has to touch once, or even look at it in the beginning, look at once, and then she gets the door open and she can go in and be left alone for a little bit. But you've got to look at what motivates your child. And if you find out what motivates your child, even the littlest thing, let their teachers and speech therapists know, because sometimes it's not obvious. And sometimes what motivates them one day isn't worth having to point to a picture the next day. We have to constantly find out what they're willing to work for, what they're motivated by. Here's just a picture of a refrigerator. It could be, if it's not lunchtime or snack time, you take the pictures off the fridge. And they know when the pictures are on there. If it's not a time you're going to normally give them a snack, but if they wanted a snack, that's okay. Put it on there and then see if the child notices. If they come up, if he or she comes up to you, it's like pulling on your arm or communicating with you somehow that they are hungry or they are thirsty, then go over to the fridge, touch once, and give them more. If they have a drink, like a sippy cup, for example, give them just a little bit, because they're going to finish that real quick, and they might get mad at first because they're used to having their whole cup, maybe. But when you give them just a little bit and they're still thirsty and that cup is thrown on the ground, walk over with them, pick it up, or have him or her pick it up, go back to the picture and touch more. And then say more, obviously. More drink and give them more. Don't wait for them to say it or wait for them to touch it in the beginning. Once you know they've made that connection, when I touch this, I get this. Once they've made that connection, that's where you have to hold out. And they may have a big old meltdown. Let them. As long as they're not hurt and no one else is getting hurt, let them have the meltdown. Because if you give in, if you give them that drink without them touching more or want, then you've just set the bar. So if they pitch a fit for 10 minutes and you give them the drink without requiring them to touch the picture, the next time they're going to go for 15 or 20 minutes. They're going to go as long as they can until you finally give in. And if you give in, you just blew what you had already worked for. That's kind of harsh, but that's the truth. We need to reward them the second they touch it, but we also need to require that they touch the picture once we've seen they're able to. This was our school bathroom, but you could put it near the sink or even near the toilet. If you're potty training, want sit down potty, want toilet paper, want pants up, want pants down, you can do want with everything. But again, if they don't want to potty train, they're not going to want to say want. So you may just have to model it in the beginning. This is my friend's daughter's desk. I know a lot of our kids have computers, and if there's a way to put the computer, like the power button, where they can't get to it, I know that's not always feasible, but put a want picture there. If you only want them having the computer from 6 to 7 o'clock at night, don't put that picture out there except from 6 to 7 at night. But then require them, and that may be something, an iPad or the computer, something may be more powerful to them than a cookie would be to me. Okay, so here's a video. This is my friend's daughter, but I wanted to show you how you could use it like at mealtime.
Want that?
Oh.
Okay, let me see your hand.
What made it flip?
We can all turn our heads up.
Yeah, can everybody just turn your head?
One.
Okay, there it's normal.
Yeah, you
Why is it flipping?
want more? Okay.
So I give her just a little bit.
Do you want more of that? No? Okay.
Sorry, I have no idea why it flips like that. But the point is that I'm giving her just a little bit of the food, but I'm also giving her the option to tell me no. And it could be, you know, like I said, the next word I would give y'all is probably no. That's also something we can model with our handouts, or we can say, you know, no want.
Mia, what shoes do you want to wear today?
Hold on.
You want...
That's going to make me crazy. I don't know if it'll flip it this way.
Mia, you want more? Okay. Do you want more of that? No? Okay.
I apologize. It was not flipping all the times I watched it before. You can also, we put the pictures here by her closet.
Mia, what shoes do you want to wear today? Do you want those or do you want those? Okay, you want that. All right.
Obviously, she's going to be more cooperative because she's 9 than most of our kids when we're initiating this with them. I get that. I totally understand that. But the point is, when you're laying out their clothes, if you give them the option, or if it's a certain day where they can wear their boots instead of their tennis shoes, give them that option and that control, and then but make them touch that want before they decide what shoes they're going to wear, or before what pants or what shirt or even what underwear. Some of them like certain kinds. Let them pick it, but again, only give the choices you're willing to let them have. It can't be like, do you want this shirt or this shirt? And they pick this, or like, no, we're going to do this one. Can't do that. That's cheating. This is she's my best friend's daughter, and so she's like a daughter to me. And she kept begging me to let her do a video with the dog, and I couldn't in my head figure out how to make it work where it might work, you know, for some of you. So I was like, fine, we'll just do it. And it actually turned out pretty cute, I think, except that it's going to turn sideways. But we just used her little stuffed animal down there, and I put that at the end of her end of her bed, and so you'll see the rest.
You want dogs? Okay. Come on.
It can be used for anything. It can be used when it's warmer weather. It can be used at your swimming pool, you know, if you have like a little kiddie pool or something. Or if they want to go outside and play, put it by the door when it's okay for them to go out and play. Do y'all have any questions about this so far? Okay. If you will take out, you have a laminated page about decorating cookies. And this is something I call them sequencing activities. I actually was using these with my kids before core, but once we had core vocabulary, we went back and we reworded some of them so that we had less new words and more core words. And we color coded them to match the core boards. And I use them for my kids who don't need core vocabulary, but because it's good for pre-reading skills, it shows them sequencing. So we talk about put your finger on number 1. It goes left to right, like when you learn to read. And it gives those visual cues for kids who aren't reading yet. At STEM, I'm blessed with having an inclusion class. So there are employees kids that are there all day, and then we have kids who come that are in the PPCD program that come in the morning and then another group that comes in the afternoon. And all of the kids in that class, when I've done these kinds of activities, they all love it. And it doesn't make anyone, look different or be treated differently. It's good for the whole class. So I'm going to let y'all use some core vocabulary. Give me just a minute and we'll get some of this passed out. Yeah, thank you.
Got that? All right. So we're passing, you're talking.
Here's some knives too, if they want to spread.
Okay. Tell them why we're practicing.
This is an activity that you could take home and use with your child or use with your children. Probably, I'm guessing even some older ones might just like the novelty of it. And I know like with different holidays coming up and things, I thought this might be something that you can take home and use it yourself. Plus, for some people, it's rewarding to get the cookie.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. So what I would do, and I've done this in a group, I've done activities like this with a group of, say, 6 kids, and I have to have other adults because, of course, everyone's wanting, and wanting their hands on things, but once my kids learn that they have to wait for everyone to get one, but that they are going to get one, once they figure that out, everyone's willing to wait their turn. It's like magic happens sometimes. So what I would do, if I could use the 3 of y'all, if you don't mind, what I would do is if we were all closer together, I would say, oh, want cookie? And I'd like have her, she'd already have like an empty plate or an empty napkin. And so I'd say, get 1 cookie as I'm pointing to the pictures. And so then I'd hold it out and she would get the cookie and put it on her plate. Okay, and then I'd go to the next person. Look at number 1, get 1 cookie. I'd go to the next person. Number 1, get 1 cookie. And even though it's repetitive, it could get boring for the adult, these kids are hearing it over and over. And it's that repetition. And it's turn taking, which is a social lesson. That, like I said, there are times, and I still have some of my older kids that as soon as they get the cookie, we're taking it right back because we're going to the next step, and that cookie will be gone by the time I get back to the kid. So there are times where I'm having to hoard the cookies until we get to the next step. But they figure out real quick, they're going to get it. There may be a meltdown once or twice. And again, I have other adults helping me when I have multiple kids, so that helps. Okay, so we're going to go to number 2. And sometimes I'll have a teacher behind them, like doing hand over hand. And sometimes I just want the kid to look. It just depends on the child. Okay, go to number 2. Put icing on it. Okay, get your icing. I'll let you do it.
You get to be our guinea pig.
Yeah.
Yay. And just put icing.
Yeah, just put it on. Put icing on it.
There you go. Writing too.
Okay, you can stop. I mean, you can make it fancier in a minute, but put icing on it. Oh, you don't have icing. Where is it? Icing. Got it. And then, like, I may make a big drama, big event about not having the icing, but we get the icing. Okay, put icing on it. Oh, we have to open it first. Put on. And it could be we're putting a blob of icing on it or whatever. Okay, her turn. Thank you. Number 2, put icing on it. Oh, the second row doesn't have icing. We'll pass this to you. Thank you. So this particular activity, we have like right on cookie with icing. So it could be that you use like the canned icing, and plop it on there with a spoon for step 2, and then you get that kind of icing for the writing, and maybe do their initial or their favorite letter, or if you're fancy, do a little picture. So then we would go number 3, write on cookie with icing, or it could be write on cookie with that. And if there's a sibling in the house, this is really good to use. Like, it's not going to be easy. And if you have a partner in the house that can help you, one with each kid or whatever, I totally recommend that. But once they figure out, they're going to get it. And I just have to wait a second, or I have to wait till we get to that picture. It's going to get smoother. But the first time or two is not going to go super smoothly necessarily. Okay, number 4. Put sprinkles on it.
Sprinkles.
Open. Put on. I see sprinkles. I like sprinkles. Like, I can model different things about it, but the main thing is we're putting on. Okay, your turn. Number 4. Put sprinkles on it.
We have a question.
Yes.
So what you're doing is you're just repeating. If we're at home, we just constantly, like, as you're building up on the thing, like, write on cookie with icing, and you're just going to keep reiterating that until they do it, or you do it piece by piece, or?
I would do it, like, if these were siblings, I would let one sibling do it, and then I'd let the next sibling do it. And that one has to wait until it's complete, until both have completed step 1. And then we go to step 2. Like, okay, so like we do step 1, say with sister, and she had, right, to get the cookie, and she has to wait to do anything. And it may be that she doesn't even have access to the icing or sprinkles yet.
Okay.
Probably doesn't have access to it yet. Because I'm still in control if I'm the parent. But she has to wait until brother gets the cookie.
Okay.
And so like say sister doesn't have communication difficulties, but brother does. So I might have sister do it first because she's modeling it for him, but she's having to learn to be patient and wait her turn. So then once each person has a cookie, then he has to wait while she gets the icing. And then then he gets the icing and she has to wait. So they know they're going to get a turn. Does that make sense?
So during this activity, they're just listening to us with the key words and just waiting their turn and doing piece by piece.
Right.
You're not saying the words, right? Or,
I'm saying it just like, oh no, the child doesn't have, it depends on the level of the child. But if we're doing good to get the child just to look towards the paper, I'm going to give it to him.
Okay.
Now, once we've established, like if he will tolerate me putting my hand on his to point to the picture, can I use your hand? like if I took, where's the picture? Put icing on it. Like I may do it hand over hand. Even if the eyes are over here, if the child will tolerate hand over hand, it's progress. And then eventually we'll get the eyes there. But if they won't tolerate the hand over hand, then if they'll just glance at the paper, you're saying the words and giving them what they want. Does that make sense? So then it's again repetition, and the child is both kids are going to benefit from it. And then we go to step 4. Oh, you didn't get a turn.
No.
Want that? Okay. Put sprinkles on it. Okay. We've got it open.
How to learn my patience over here.
Right.
No.
Okay.
As I
So
was looking at them, no.
it's tedious, and it can't be when you're in a hurry, obviously. It's got to be when you have time to sit down, and you can go, even if you have 7 kids, make the older ones sit down with you and model it, because they're modeling waiting, and they're modeling keeping their hands quiet, or whatever it is. That child is going to benefit from hearing it over and over and over. And then the more you do it, they're going to be willing to wait because they know it's coming. Did that answer your question? Okay. Does that make sense to y'all how it is slow? But I am going, with a group of 6 kids, I've done it. Of course, like I said, I have other adults helping keep them in their seat or keep them from eating their cookie right away. But the second they're finished, well, depending on the group and how often we've done it, if they're familiar, then I make them wait until everyone's finished to eat it. But some of them are doing good to get to that last thing, and they get to eat it the second they put sprinkles on it.
You're done.
Comes with old age experience. But it's a reward. Now, the cookie's on a reward for everyone, and I get that. But this was just kind of a general example that I wanted to share with y'all. Do y'all have any questions about any of this? Are there any situations at home that you just can't imagine using core vocabulary? Let me show you just a couple of things. I know that Pecs is, a lot of people hear Pecs and think that's the answer. And Pecs is great. I've gone to training for Pecs. I've gone to training on verbal behavior. But I'd be very careful using any one thing. I think it's important that you got to figure out from, different systems or whatever, what's going to work for your child. Pecs really, of course, it has been years since I went to that training. But basically the idea of Pecs is that it's a picture exchange communication system. So use core vocabulary with that system. Does that make sense? In here we have, I've actually used this with some kids, so I'm missing some pictures, but these are 2-inch pictures, but they're color-coded. They're the same these are the older pictures. When we first did core boards, we used pictures from a program called Board Maker. And then several years ago, the district started using a curriculum with our self-contained classes called Unique. And the Unique curriculum uses symbol sticks. So then we redid the core boards and replaced the Board Maker pictures with symbol sticks. Right now, both are still available. The speech paths have access to both. But as I've used it more and more, with my PPCD kids and kids in ALE, I personally am just going to use symbol sticks, because why teach them one set of symbols, and then if they are going to go to ALE or to ABC or something like that, why change the symbols on them? Now, with some of my kids, if they know those symbols well, then I might pull out the Board Maker and just see if they can make that adjustment with it being a different picture. But in the beginning, I'm going to start showing, I do use symbol sticks with my little ones, because they may be using it when they're older. If they're not going to need it when they're older, so what? But if they are going to need it when they go to like 1st grade or 2nd grade, they've already been working on it. Those symbols are not going to be new for them. We also know that we had a deaf educator, years ago. I had a little boy come to us who had been at the school for hearing impaired, and for whatever reason he needed to come to our program. Well, I know sign language on like a 2-year-old level. I cannot carry on conversation with sign language. Well, he's been in a school that only had sign language. So she took our core boards and put signs for every single word. So we have core boards that are just sign language. We also had a child in the district, another speech path made this. Thank you. And this she made for a child who had a visual impairment, who needed bigger pictures and brighter paper or brighter background. So it doesn't have to be these file folder pictures. I've also taken the core vocabulary and put them on a communication device. Not apps that are on an iPad. Like, I don't change the apps, but if it's a system where I put the vocabulary in, I will use our pictures when at all possible, because I'm trying to keep that consistency in the beginning.
So if I just could add real quick.
Yeah.
So you all see the 4 pictures.
Yeah.
When Angela's talking about functional communication, when you're home and your children have limited language skills, they're nonverbal, or their skills are just not there, how do you communicate with them? I mean, do y'all have behaviors because they're frustrated because you don't understand what they want? Well, that happens a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we have to help them find a way to communicate. I mean, because you're going to be spinning your wheels with behavior constantly if they can't tell you what they want or what they need. So the core vocabulary with the 4 cards that we gave you is the beginning. Those cards develop those 4 very important words. So working and repetition is the key word that we can't emphasize enough to you, is the repetition. You may have to do it 100 times. You may have to do it 1,000 times, but it works. But if we don't give them something, how are we going to get there? Now, I don't know, we have a big array of people here. I mean, are any of our families, do any of you have children that are nonverbal? We have nonverbal. Okay. Y'all know how frustrating that is. I mean, how do they tell us what they want and what they need? I mean, they can point.
Yeah.
They can pull your arm. You know, come on.
Even when she wants something to eat, she opens the fridge.
She opens the fridge.
And says, "You want that?"
And points. Exactly. So, but what Angela's asking you to do is to make them work for it. Because they do get older and they do function better, right? They start to figure things out. But if we can get that bridge to where they're actually using a card, they're associating the word with action, which is their function of what they're doing. So that's why we're trying to make connections for them. That's so important. Yes?
I was going to ask, because, like, I mean, obviously, you know Gage, but, and then we used all this stuff with him, and he's now getting to where, well, I mean, that's where his vocabulary is at now. I want whatever it is, and he can label like crazy, but I guess my question would be, how do we get past that? Just the I want whatever, is it going to come with age and just more, I mean, just answering questions and anything like that?
For our kids that do have some language or have developed some language, especially for kids who have autism, we use what I would call that a carrier phrase. And so it's like, I want fill in the blank. And since you said it, I guess I could say too, like her son has learned to use I want, and then whatever it is, he can fill in the blank. But obviously we need more, that would fall under that requesting or manding. So what, once the child's requesting, I move on, even just with one. Like, we don't stay there forever until they get, I want that blue balloon. Like, we're working on other things as we start seeing that connection happening. But I would move on to other carrier phrases like, I see car, I see big car, or looking in a book, or looking at photo albums, or pictures on the computer. I see that. I want that, I want that, or I don't want that. I have several carrier phrases. I'm drawing a blank now on other ones, but I can share those with you. I know, like with one kid, I'll take some activities in, and we'll do like I have a picture of a girl and a picture of a boy, and it could be like we put pictures down for each one and say, he has ball, she has apple. And then we give them different pictures. He has puzzle, she has bubbles. So we're getting that he has, she has, they have. But it's really just kind of getting those initial phrases so that they can fill in the blank. Right. Like, is that three? Yeah. And like he's requesting, so then you want to think, okay, like he's labeling, he's requesting, what else do we need to, and you can look back on that slide that talks about the different reasons we communicate and look at like a different area he's not doing yet. Or it could be like reporting to a sibling, or telling teacher. And what we talked about a month or two ago, I'll give you that. But one thing I have not implemented yet, and was not intending to mention tonight, but I know that like a lot of parents want their kids to be able to say what they did at school. And sometimes we're like, my 7-year-old or my 15-year-old is not telling me what they did at school. Like, that's just normal. But when your child doesn't communicate, for you to hear I play or even like eat, I mean, I would I would be ecstatic to hear something like that from schools. So I was trying to figure out, again, I'm one of those that if it's not going to work for everybody, I'll sit on it for a long time. I'm embarrassed to tell you how long I've been trying to figure this out. But I think we've figured out a system, and I'll share it with the Speech Path, that is like a little card that says, I play, I eat, I saw. It's like 5 different carrier phrases, I want to say. Using core vocabulary, but also using just some basic vocabulary that we're going to start using in January. I've decided we're going to wait till the holidays are over to start sending that home. But because I have the kind of program with our, I hate to say, typically developing kids, we're going to send it home with everybody. So everybody's reporting. So when they come back to school, the teacher can pick like 3 or 4 kids and give them the card that says what they did over the weekend. And then ideally the kids sitting down could say, what do? Or who saw? And again, I'm going to use our kids to model it until my kids are using it more so, or pointing to the pictures. But it's that social communication, but it's also reporting or informing, basically.
Yes.
See, this is what happens. We figure something out, and then a whole can of worms opens, and I can't figure out how to make it work. Right? I'm going to share it with share it with the Speech Path. If any of you are interested, let me know. But I need to let the Speech Path know about that too, because that part they don't know about. That was just something I've been trying to figure out. But
and that's a good point, though. Is do you all know who your child's speech pathologist is at school? Does everybody know?
Yep.
Okay, if you don't know, that's a question that you need to answer. Because if your child receives speech, you need to know who your speech pathologist is. It's an easy thing to do. Ask your child's teacher, call the school, but they're part of the team. And as Angela said at the beginning, we're all team. We're Team John, we're Team Mary, and you have to know who that person is. That person will work with you. That person will communicate with you, but you oftentimes reach out to them. So find out who your speech pathologist is for yourself on that campus if they're receiving speech. I know a lot of parents do outside speech. Anybody doing private speech therapy? Okay. They can collaborate. They can work together. I mean, I don't want to do something with her child at home and then not have that continue on in school and vice versa.
right.
So reach out and find out who your speech pathologist is. That's so very important. So the things that Angela was talking about, they meet. How often do y'all meet? Once a
Speech
month?
Path? Usually once a month.
Once a month. So they share ideas. Angela shares ideas. And so we're trying to make it better. We're trying to help our students in the district to communicate, especially those that are struggling with language. So if you don't know, ask. Okay? And that's on you as parents to be more involved and to find out who that person is. You know who your child's teacher is, find out who the speech pathologist is. Just like if they had other type of therapies, we want you to know who they are. Okay? Can y'all do that for me? Okay.
And I will confess, I have been bad about not contacting parents who are in like PPCD or ALE until we've had an art or until I know there's a question or something. And to be honest, I've kind of left it up to the teacher because the teacher is the case manager. So I trust that if there's an issue or there's a question, the parent's going to tell the teacher will tell me. But I'm going to try to be more proactive about reaching out myself. I think we all should be. But I just want you to know, like, if your speech path hasn't reached out to you, if this is your first year there, like, there's probably several of us who haven't reached out to certain parents. But it does help if you will reach out to us and start that. Because sometimes we don't know if y'all just, I don't know. We just need to be better about communicating ourselves. But we'll share that with the speech path. The other thing about sharing it at our meetings is that there's no point in reinventing the wheel. If someone has come up with something that works, then we try to share it with everyone because it's for the kids, bottom line. Are there any more questions?
Oh my gosh, y'all did such a great job. Yeah.
So in my son's class, they worked on him saying, I want, but he stops. He says, I want. And so we've been trying to get him to say, I want his favorite food is peaches. I want peaches. And so we'll say, I want peaches. So he won't say the fill in the blank word until we say it, even though he knows the word. So I don't know how to bridge that, I guess.
Right. If anyone couldn't hear, her child is doing the I want, but won't say what he wants, which obviously is a next step. And so, have y'all tried giving like options? Want peaches? Want?
Yeah, like he knows all those, like he knows what he wants, but he just stops at the I want. And so when I say, I want what, he'll say I want what. And so
Yeah. So then you get into that echoic thing.
Peaches or oranges?
Are there certain things that your child doesn't like food-wise?
Yes, everything except for peaches and oranges.
So I would pull out something he doesn't want, and I would say, want peaches, want bologna. Why that came to my head, but want bologna, and or whatever it is he does not want. And then if he does, I want, and still won't say the word, but looks at one of them, give him that one in the beginning and say, oh, I want peaches, and model that. But if he looks at the bologna, give him the bologna. And then he may get all mad for a minute, and that's okay, he'll get over it. But he's not going to get those peaches until he's at least looked at them.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
But it's got to be, you don't want to offer two things he wants, because he doesn't care. As long as he gets something he likes, then, you got to kind of figure, it's a game sometimes, it feels like. Did you have a question?
Yes, my son is, he never said, I want this or I want, he just says the word, like Cheerios. Now it's Cheerios all the time. It's okay, you have to say, I want Cheerios. Whenever I told him, he said, but not by himself. So he buys them, like, he just says the words. He memorizes what he wants, but he never says the complete sentence,
Then I would, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I'm trying to kind of work on that. How can I make him, like...
We almost need to put these two together, and then we'd have, like, the complete sentence. I'm just kidding. But what I would do in that case, because her son is saying the item he wants, but he won't do the I want. So if he wants, I didn't hear what you said. Cheerios. So if he wants Cheerios, and you have the box of Cheerios out there, and he's saying Cheerios, say, yeah, I see Cheerios. And just, put it where you can't get it. Like, don't let him climb the cabinets, but put it or hold it where he can't get it. I see Cheerios. I like Cheerios. Oh, want Cheerios? And only do the want. Want Cheerios. And you may have to put the picture of want on that and have him touch it. And then, he may not say want for a little while, but if he'll look at want or he'll touch want and then add Cheerios, then say Cheerios, I'd give it to him. So, like, I feel like that was clear as mud. So if, like, say this is the box of Cheerios, and you're holding it up, I don't know, how old is your child? 5. So I'm assuming you're taller than he is still. So so you're going to hold it up like Cheerios, and you may hold the want picture with it, and he's down there having a fit because you know what he wants. You know when I say Cheerios, I want my Cheerios, but he can't tell you all that yet. So you're going to get the behaviors at first, but you say want Cheerios, and then if you hold it a little lower and he just goes for the Cheerios, then you're going to have to pull it back. Obviously, you won't be holding a microphone. And then show this first. Want Cheerios. And if he just looks at it in the beginning, give him the Cheerios. Then the next time he looks at it, and you make it, if there's someone that can help you do hand over hand with them, he has to touch the want and then get the Cheerios. So eventually, you'll be able to get it combined.
He can say it. If I tell him I want Cheerios, he can say it. Not all the time. Sometimes just he cries. But we have been working, 2 years without crying, and he doesn't say it by himself. Even though he knows and I do the same thing. What do you want? And I show different kinds, like Cheerios. And he knows what he wants, but it's just sometimes he doesn't want to say it.
Exactly.
But he knows. So I was kind of looking for a tip for him to say it. I know he knows how to say it.
Yeah. So for your child, I wouldn't offer two things because you know what he wants. Whereas with her child, she's trying to have him say that word. But with your child, he has the word, so that's not the problem. So you're not worried about the Cheerios. You're not going to offer him something he doesn't want. You know exactly what he wants. But you've got to show the price. And he's like, what's the point of that? When I say Cheerios, I get the Cheerios. So why do I have to say that word? That word doesn't mean anything. Cheerios is what means something. So you've got to hold out until he at least looks or touches. Like accept a look or accept a touch in the beginning. And then always, want Cheerios, give him the Cheerios. Does that make sense? But this has got to be your focus now. Not the item itself, but you can't give in. And he's not going to starve. He's going to get really mad. And your life is going to stink for about 30 minutes. But if you give in, I'm telling you, and I mean this with all the love of my speech, my heart, if you give in and you give him Cheerios without him looking at this, or even at a glance of that, or touching it, whatever step he's gotten to, if you give in without requiring that, then you've just set that bar higher. If you finally cave in 10 minutes or 20 minutes, next time he's going to go longer trying to make you cave. So I promise you, if you don't give in, and obviously Cheerios aren't going to keep him alive and healthy. So he's going to be mad, but he's not going to be hurt physically or in any way if he doesn't get the Cheerios. Does that make sense? Sure. Anybody else? Yes. I'm sorry, I saw her.
What do I do with my child? He repeats everything for about an hour if I don't give it to him immediately.
That makes me crazy. I mean, that's part of my job, and it happens all the time, but sometimes I just want to stop talking because I'm like, no. But that's just part of it. We just have to find things to laugh about sometimes. But when I have a child who is repeating everything I'm saying, then I just stop for a minute, and it's almost like that repeating is helping them process that information. So really you stop talking, not so he won't repeat you, but so he has that time to process it in his mind. But sometimes I have found that I don't have, the real answer is I don't know how to make him stop. It's just over time they eventually stop doing that. But if he's repeating you like that, then I would use a picture and just point. And I wouldn't say the word at that point. Does that make sense? And then if he'll point to it, then after he points to it, you say want. He says want, and you'll do it one time. So like even though it could drive you crazy, it's really a good thing that he's repeating that, but we don't want him to continue. He's not going to go through life repeating everything that's said to him, but it is going to take some time. But take that pause. Does that answer your question? Okay. Do you have a question?
My son never asked me like question. Why? When? Where? It's too early. He's 3.5. Yeah.
I think that is because I happen to know your family. I think that's okay for right now. Because I think if we get more of him telling you what you want, the asking questions will come later. Yes. But we want to look at how he uses those words. Is he just commenting, or is he requesting? Is he giving you information? Right. So I would pay more attention to that right now, and then later on we'll work on asking the questions. But answering the questions comes way before asking. And we can talk more about that too.
He can ask me.
Yes.
Ask me? No, never.
And I have a friend that I have a friend that knows your child, And we're going to address that. So I'll try some things too. I'll share that with you.
But those are hard. The
Those are hard, yeah.
What wear wise are they're hard.
And
They're hard.
asking is so.
But I'm asking her because I want to look like this.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
But they're hard. It's a higher level skill, and it's just
Right, because they're used to being the one asked, for one thing. So then it's hard to turn it around. And then if you have a child who has autism, then they're more within themselves, so it's harder to turn it around. But we'll get there, I think. Yeah, but we'll talk more.
Thank you.
Yes.
If he does not listen. If he does not listen. Oh boy.
Well, if it was my child, no, I'm kidding.
That's for the behavior one.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are times like, honestly, there are times where I'm like, I can only do so much. But if there are behaviors, I need help. I need someone to help us with the behavior so we can get the communication. Because it's kind of the phrase like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? What's causing is the behaviors caused because of communication, or are we not getting communication because of the behaviors? Because they won't attend to pictures, or they won't attend to words, or to people. So it's kind of difficult, but does the child run off from what you're trying to do, or just won't pay attention, or what kind of behaviors? Both.
Sometimes ignores.
Okay, sometimes runs and sometimes ignores. That's hard. And that's where really having another person can come into play, and that's where you got to pick. You're not going to be able to have them request want for everything in the beginning. So it might be that when they are, I don't know if there's, if they sit in like a little, what's after a high chair? Like those booster seats. Yeah, I have a 17-year-old, it's been a while. If they have like a booster seat where you can sit them in that and they aren't able to get out of it until you take them out. We can't do that in school. But you could do it at home if that's, how they eat or whatever. But whenever you have their attention, whether it's they're in the bathtub and they won't, jump out of the bathtub, sometimes they will jump out. But if there is if there is any kind of setting, and it may just be one in the beginning, where that child, where you can have his attention, or maybe he likes like the closet because it's an enclosed feeling, or a little kitty tent, where he's like in there and he really doesn't have anywhere to go, then I would pick that time to model a request. But it's hard when you've got the behaviors of them running around and not paying attention, because you can't chase them after, that's not going to work.
I have that problem with Paige.
Oh, yeah?
I did Play-Doh and sand and stuff at the table, and you can use a lot of language doing that. And I'm squishing this, or I'm playing with this, and I want this color, or just. Yeah. Oh,
that's awesome. Yeah, thank you. With her son, she used, I don't know if y'all could hear, but she used a lot of Play-Doh, because he would do that. She would use Play-Doh or something sensory with his hands that he liked, and would keep him busy and would keep him at the table so she could then model the language. So if he likes Play-Doh, or if he likes having a little tub of water that he can put some toys in, that might be the time to do want. And it may be just a real quick glance, but that might be the time to do it. But it's going to have to be a more focused time. Does that make sense?
Sometimes I put him in the chair,
Uh-huh.
then we try to do it, then he just ignores it.
And if he's in the booster seat and he's still just ignoring it, if there's something he wants, I wouldn't give it to him until he
Make you work for it.
Exactly. And I'd have that picture there in front of him, or I'd be showing it to him, or whatever, or even put it up by your face. And the second he glances at you and looks over, he gets whatever, a spoonful of peas, or a slice of banana, not a whole heaping spoonful, or not the whole banana, but you give him a little bit, and eventually he may want more. Is that a possibility that he may want more? No. And see, that's where it is hard with a lot of kids because we got to find what's motivating for them, and sometimes there are lots of things like they really want it, but it's not worth looking at that picture. And so you have to find that one thing that is worth the cost of looking at this to be able, to get what he wants. And that's hard sometimes. It's really hard when you can't figure out exactly what is motivating enough for them. I know that didn't help you much, but we can talk afterwards and see what we can
We'd
figure
love
out.
for you to come to the behavior one, maybe that might
The
help.
behavior one, absolutely, because there are times where we're just not getting anywhere with communication. But once behavior is it's never going to be perfect, but once it's like under control somewhat, or we can at least get them to attend for a second, it definitely helps.
Can I say,
Sure.
like, one thing that did help me, like, my son's 11 now. I went through this thing with him when he was way younger. One thing that did help me out with him is we have an evening calendar, and we kind of, like, labeled out every hour, like, what time it was. Like, when he got home, okay, it's snack time, and then 30 minutes of playtime. So we would have pictures of snack time, like, it would be like evening schedule with his picture, and then every night we would go through that, and then I would be like, okay, snack time, I want, and then I give him the choices, and I do that every night, like with this one schedule, and it allowed me to lay out like the verbiage, or I want like bath time, do you want this toy or this toy? And that's how I kind of was able to do that with him, because my son was like everywhere. And like once I did a schedule and he saw that every night and was able to like visualize and look at that schedule, I'd have a picture for this hour and this is what we're gonna do. Like I'm cooking and you get to play. What do you want to play? And that's how, like, because I had a lot of behavioral issues, like when he was younger like that, he just wouldn't listen, he'd ignore me. But once I got that schedule going, like every night he got used to it, it really laid out a whole bunch of tools I was able to use with the words as well. And he started to actually communicate when he was not communicating at all. So I don't know if that might help her or not.
That's huge, honestly, especially for kids who have autism. If they have a visual schedule, and it could be just pictures you print off, you Google and print some pictures of like bath and brushing teeth or book or TV or computer, whatever, and you set that schedule and he learns to anticipate that over time, then you can he will learn to rely on that. I totally believe that.
It opened up the language too, to practice that with him. Okay, what do you want? And we would practice words. I give them so many choices. So I don't know, just
yeah. Well, it gives it structure.
Yeah.
Well,
oh yeah.
Visuals are awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sorry we have to come to a close, but if you have questions, Angela will be here for a few minutes afterwards. Thank y'all for coming, though. Really, really appreciate it. Grab snacks on your way out, and hopefully we can see you at our Behavior One in November.